Welcome to the podcast with your favorite cash flow guys, Mike and Blaine. Giving you the best advice while having a beer. When you're running a business, there are problems every day. Let Mike and Blaine help you out and guide your way. Cheers to the good times with Mike and Blaine for business, beer, and BS.
Hey, it's Mike and Blaine. This is episode, what is it, 219? 219. This is what going to be one of the last ones of the year. I'm Mike Byland, your host, Cashflow Mike, and that is my co-host, Blaine Birch of Dry Run. What's up, my man?
Bit of a bumpy start to this one. Kind of got kicked out, let back in, and anyway, we got her up and running. So I don't know if we're streaming live everywhere because we got some nasty error today, but I think it's going some places anyway, so we'll find out later.
Well, you know what's funny? The reason why it got screwed up is that LinkedIn, YouTube, all those people, they're ready for us on Thursday, not Tuesday, right? So, but Thursday's Christmas, so we're not going to be able to do this on Christmas, of course. So we said, let's do it Tuesday, man. Let's give the people a show.
Let's give the fans what they're asking for. Give our million fans. We actually had one of our pieces of content past 1 million views this week. So that's the first one. We've got the big 1 million views on. So thanks for everyone for tuning in and telling us how dumb Blaine is.
Did you ever think we would have 1 million views on anything?
No,
on anything.
No. That's a lot.
I'm like going, shit, I thought it would take us 10 years to get 1 million views of all things collectively.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Absolutely crazy. And because of that, we're going to celebrate you. And because we're celebrating you, we're also going to talk about whiskey today. So let's have a shot before we get into our beer. Let's do a little shot. Let's do a little neat whiskey. I'm going to do Austin 101. It's a light whiskey. It's it's so nice. I don't know if you've ever had it, but it's a local thing.
Oh, I didn't have enough hands for a glass here.
Oh, you're going to take it right out of the bottle.
I'm going to take it right out of the bottle. My wife will disown me if I do that.
Don't do that then.
I'll just
hey, brother, good job with your viral clip. If you guys haven't seen it, go to Cashflow Mike's Instagram, check it out, right? It's pinned right at the top of the page. You'll see it like 1 million views. Everything else has like 2,000, 3,000 views. Not Blaine Birch's. Blaine Birch's is 1 million views. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen. I've never seen that. Guess how much money you make when you get 1 million views?
Big fat zero.
So far, nothing.
Big fat zero.
Yeah. Big fat. And it's probably because, well, dumbass, you didn't click monetization or something. It's going to be my fault because I didn't do something, right? So we're not trying to monetize it, but it is a good debatable topic on who should give the prescription. Should it be the doctor? Should it be the pharmacist? If you want to know Blaine's take, go check it out on my Instagram page.
Yes, and then he can complain about me. That's okay. I'll take it because we got 1 million views off of it. So yeah, cheers. I should have, I had too many things in my hands. I should have grabbed a little glass here, but that's okay. We are talking about whiskey today because, first of all, both you and I love whiskey. I know you're more of a bourbon guy, more of a Scotch guy, but I do, cross over to the dark side every once in a while. And, but it's really interesting, like the stories of resurgence for whiskey, both Scotch and bourbon, which are different, but they've both seen a resurgence. And I find it just really quite interesting on how it's happening and how the communities are just driving a lot of craft, but also carrying along the bigger brands as they move forward as well.
Hey, and you know what's funny is that the biggest growth has been in female drinkers. Right. And you don't think about that, right? You always think about whiskey like, oh, that's what men drink. Girls drink vodka or rum or tequila or something like that. One of the lighter ones. The biggest growth in users has been in women. So that's a really cool thing.
Yep. My wife loves Scotch. And you know what, I'll be truthful, it was a lot of years where she wouldn't even try it. And then once she tried it, she's like, this is terrific. And now really appreciates some of these great whiskeys we get. And so yeah, no, I can definitely see that. That's got to be a major change in the right direction for an entire industry, and to some degree that was lagging behind. I think the Scotch industry for a while was struggling. So to have a resurgence is a really big deal for them.
Yeah, right on. So, hey, before we get into it, because I mean, that could have been the start right there. That could have just ran us off. But we have beer sponsors, right? This is a business beer and BS, right? Business bourbon beer and BS. I don't know.
Yeah, it starts getting longer every time.
But hey, we got some beer sponsors we should acknowledge. And I'll tell you what, we started a few minutes late. Why? Because neighbor Pat stopped by. Neighbor Pat stopped by. He's double dipped today. Not only did he bring me a beer earlier, right? I'm going to have delirium for Christmas, right? Of course, nice. Noel, I mean, everybody likes delirium. So I'm going to have delirium. It's a 10%er. Plus we got bourbon. I'm getting in trouble. I'm already in trouble just because I got both these things in the same room. I'm in trouble. So
unfortunately, I didn't bring a glass, so I'll carry us.
That's called the birthday episode. Revisited.
Yeah, we've been through this one before.
Hey, but wait a sec. But he also stopped by and brought me a set of glasses from BJ's Brewery. Nice. They make their own beers. You've seen BJ's. They're a nationwide kind of thing like that. But brought me a set of pint glasses just for Christmas. So thanks, neighbor Pat, man. Good job. And if you're looking for a butt kicking, I can give it.
Yeah, thanks, Pat.
Cordial, that is. Yeah,
cordial. I always appreciate the support, Pat. Every episode, really appreciate it. And Rachel Barnett from Gentle Frog. So if you need to know how to use QuickBooks Online, go to her YouTube channel, YouTube at Gentle Frog, and catch it while you can. You will be learning everything you need to know about QBO. But I believe Rachel has some news that you were mentioning the other day, right?
Dude, she posted it on Instagram, right? I shared it with you. I'm like, I don't think Gentle Frog's going away. I think it's still going to be there. I think they're still going to be doing their thing. But Rachel herself has decided to go, I'm done. I'm just done with working. She's going to go. She's made enough money. She's, living the best life. She goes, there's other things I want to do with my time rather than work. And that's where we all want to get to. We all want to get to that place. And man, all I can do is apply. When you hear somebody saying they're going to retire, that means they did it. Everything that they were going to do in their life, they're done. Meaning work-wise.
Work-wise, I guess. Congrats, Rachel.
Or maybe not.
Yeah,
or maybe not. Maybe she's going to go do something else. I don't know.
Yep. Find something else to do. I'm the type that might go a little stir crazy if I don't have something to do. So, congrats, Rachel. Congrats on a lot of great work. Well done. And dive into Larry Weinstein. If you're looking for a CPA, best CPA in Houston, Texas, go talk with Larry, the cash flow cowboy, and you find him at cashflowranch.com. Is it the Cashflow Ranch or just Cashflow Ranch?
I think it's the cashflowranch.com.
The cashflowranch.com.
The cowboy hangs out at the Cashflow Ranch, and that's what he's got a big game. He's talked to me 3 or 4 times about it this week. This weekend, right?
Mm-hmm.
LSU, right? He knows my connection to LSU. I used to teach there. Courtney still runs the bookstore there. Our other beer sponsor, Devon's there, the biggest LSU player on the planet. So now we're in conflict. Do we root for Devon and LSU? Do we root for the Cashflow Cowboy, who's the University of Houston, right? And they play in the bowl game this weekend. So, right? So, I mean, now we got 2 beer sponsors going head to head. It's anybody's game. Who knows? I'd like to say go Cougs, but still Tigers. Go Tigers.
Winner buys us a beer and the loser buys us 2 beer.
There you go. Yeah. Either way, you can still buy us a beer. We're not gonna penalize you for losing the game.
Nope.
Right. Nope. It's just like Pat, right? We never penalize him. As many games as he's lost, we never penalize him.
And somehow he keeps bringing you beer, even though he busts his chops.
Yeah. So he did mention look, I guess we're live because he's already said healthcare always makes noise, right? So he's in healthcare. He knows that business. He's in the insurance world, health insurance, right? He manages big groups. I'm talking about like a whole region of huge groups. So he knows everything about health insurance. And when I have questions about health insurance, I call neighbor Pat.
Nice. Yeah, that's Pat, thanks again. This is you've been a sponsor for going on a few years now, actually. So, this is the first time that you talked about being a healthcare expert. So that's,
Well,
yeah,
because he's my beer guy, right? He's a beer expert too, so he's my beer guy. So the other one we got is Karen Harrison up in Michigan. She runs 3S Smart Consulting. She's got a best-selling book out on Amazon called Stop Growing Broke, Start Growing Profits. If you want to know more about growing your cash, making your bank balance go higher, go talk to Karen over at 3S Smart Consulting.
Awesome. Thanks, Karen. Really appreciate it. And on to the show. Okay, well, I guess I'll dive in because I kind of came up with this today. And I forgot to tell you, I'm out of sync today. I got to show you the beer that I'm drinking today. And
I already did.
Yeah, you showed Pat's, and I kind of we got talking about Pat, but it's a Great Notion Rimsky Pivo. It's a Czech style Pilsner. Great Notion, a terrific brewery up in Portland. I just wanted to mention their name because it's really good beer. And Great Notion does some amazing stuff, actually. So, but this first Pilsner I've had from them. Yeah. But yeah.
No, I was going to say, this isn't the first time that you and I have been kind of, we'll say, out of sync, because you're a Scotch guy, I'm a bourbon guy. That's yin and yang. I think that's why the show works, right? We always kind of come at the same topic from a different angle. Now, when I think of Scotch drinkers, and now you can tell me why you picked this topic. When I think of Scotch drinkers, I think of you as a little kid sitting in the yard eating dirt, because that's the only way you would like Scotch.
Oh, you're missing out on some good Scotch here, man.
Like going, I still got a taste for dirt even as an adult.
You're missing out on some amazing Scotch. Now, I will say that the peaty, especially the heavily peated Scotches, are a bit of an acquired taste for some people. And I like peaty, but it isn't my go-to. But I always have a bottle around. I always have a bottle or two around that are kind of peaty, but it's definitely not my go-to. But what I found interesting, and this is where, like, I know you love bourbon, and I do always have a good bourbon around too. So, because I do like it. I love Scotch. And so I've been watching a lot of different YouTube shows talking about new Scotch that's come out and reviewing them, and bourbon ones too. A lot of the guys in the Bourbon Basement or whatever, I watch them every once in a while. But what I found interesting was, as I started to dig through some of these, I found that the Scotch industry was really suffering not that long ago. And it just sort of slowly kind of turned a corner and started to get a lot of momentum the other way. And it started to lose it's for old guys kind of personality. And there's a lot of new distilleries coming online, and a lot of the old famous ones are really doing something quite interesting. And the entire ecosystem has kind of turned around. And of course, that's great for Scotland because it's a massive industry in Scotland. And so I just found it really, really interesting that, and then to hear that the bourbon industry has had more of a rapid ascent, that it's really started to gain a lot of buzz, a lot of drive. And also there's all these craft bourbon distilleries, which I find really interesting, just kind of like the craft beer, small business, fighting the big guys and in a lot of cases winning or carving out their little realm. And so I just thought it was such a great story. And it's something that we both like. So that's why I kind of thought it was a cool topic.
Yeah, but it's also the distinction in taste buds. It's a personal preference. I don't care if it's Scotch or if it's bourbon. I mean, with Scotch, it's a little bit more oaky, more peaty, more, I don't know. It's more of a mossy, like strong taste, right? And bourbon's sweet, and I think that's why the resurgence, has been an uptick, is that people may have more of a sweeter taste, and maybe that's why the women have gravitated towards just all whiskey drinks. But I mean, I think the sweet is what's really made bourbon kind of a fast riser.
Well, and I think there's you can get a distillery up and running a little bit quicker generally because it doesn't need to generally be as aged as Scotch. It doesn't carry as much weight if it's aged as Scotch. So I think that's part of it. But there's a really wide range. I think part of it is, like with Scotch, one of the challenges it has is there's a much wider range of flavors in Scotch than I think you sort of give it credit for, right? But so that's kind of part of it.
Hey,
right?
You know why? I mean, when I was introduced to Scotch, Well, I take that back because isn't Cutty Sark? Is that's a Scotch, right? But like olden age, like it's like from the 50s, 60s, 70s.
Okay.
Anyway, I think Cutty Sark was the first one I was introduced to, and I had to cut it with Pepsi when I was like a teenager because that's what we did, which was terrible, and everybody made fun of me. So, but the thing about Scotch, the first one I really got introduced to as an adult, and I tell people now, I said, I don't think my Scotch buds are in yet. You know how like you don't like horseradish as a kid, and then as an adult you like it. I think that's the same way with Scotch. Maybe I'm not old enough to drink Scotch yet, because taste buds haven't changed. But to me, they introduced me to Lafroig first. You don't start with Lafroig, I don't think. Is that how you say that name?
Lafroig,
Did I say that right?
And that's not one of my top. I know it's a distillery. A lot of people love it. It's definitely not one of my favorites. But it's starting with probably one of the most challenging Scotches. And because it is peaty, there's a lot of Scotch that is not peaty at all, zero peat. And then there's a lot that have just a little whisker of it. Lafroig is like very, 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 very heavy, smoky flavor, right?
We had it at the office, right, at Phonograph. And if I just, like, my boss would come in and say, hey, let's get a little Lafroig, because he bought it and put it in my office. So if I popped the top on it, the whole office knew that it was open. It was that strong, right? Mm-hmm. He and I one time had a weight loss contest. We're like, hey, we're going to try to lose weight, and the person that loses the most weight in the next 2 months has to buy the other one a bottle, and the bottle has to be more than $100, right? Which means you had to spend more than $100 on it. I won. He lost like 11 pounds. I lost 13. Why? Because most of mine's beer, water weight. You just stop drinking beer for like a week or two, and it just falls off you. But anyway, so I won, and he buys me this. I forget the name of it, but I'm going to call it super peat. It's like only peat. It's like they had peat in it and then poured water on the peat and said, here, you drink this. But it was over $100. So it was something that I couldn't really drink. I suffered through it, of course, because, it's a bet. but that's what it was. It just, that has such a strong aroma, such a strong taste that if you are introduced to Scotch first with that one, you're never going to like Scotch, I don't think.
Well, you never like peaty Scotches, but I suspect if you had some non-peaty Scotches, you would find something you would really like. And, but that's a challenge.
So I mean, what's a good one? What's a good Scotch? I don't know. What's a good Scotch?
What's a good Scotch? There's so many good Scotches out there. I could barely list them all, just like bourbons, right? I grabbed a couple bottles here. I picked up this one yesterday because I love this one. I will say that I can't say I have a favorite, but I do love this distillery and I love this Scotch. And the reason I know I love it is because I had a lot of different bottles of Scotch around last summer, and this one disappeared in Edmonton just as God by fall. So like, I must like that one. But this is a Kilkerran 8, and contrary to what there are older ones. There's a Kilkerran 12. There's a Kilkerran 16. I love the 8 because it's a cask strength, and it's got a lot of punch and oomph to it, a lot of kind of funkiness, really interesting flavors, but just a touch of peat, like just a light touch, right?
Did you see, though, that that's a bourbon cask age, which means to me that there would probably be some type of infusion of the sweetness in bourbon?
Oh, absolutely. A ton of Scotch are bourbon barrel aged Scotches and historically they could
you turn the barrel over faster.
So they could get barrels and they would age them in there. Like here, this other one I grabbed, this is a story that I really like. This is a new distillery. And when I say new, I think they've been around maybe a dozen years, but you know how long it takes Scotch to age, right? Mm-hmm. Even their young Scotch was getting extremely good reviews. And this is what I like is that they released something and it's such high quality and they had people that were highly experienced behind it. And this is Ardent American. This one happens to be a mezcal cask release. So this is actually aged in a mezcal cask.
Interesting.
And it's got a very modern kind of beautiful style and label. The glass is, and this Ardent American has kind of come out of nowhere, and Scotch lovers really love it. And it's just one of my favorite distilleries as well. Even though it's a really new one, everyone I've got from them I found just terrific. But it's kind of like one of those lessons in how do you break into an industry where, people expect it's going to take 20 years to come up with, something. How do you get quality out of the gate? They're not selling, I don't think, anything that's a really short aged anything. So how do you get from 0 to 100? How do you have enough capital on hand to be able to do that? But they made such a high quality product out of the gate that it's just elevated them and got that momentum going.
Well, if you're watching Tulsa King out there with, Rocky Balboa, Sylvester Stallone, where he's, the Tulsa King, he pretty much just bought his way in because there was this special batch of, I forget the name of it now, but it's a 50-year batch. He pretty much bought his way in, and there's been so much killing over just this batch of of Scotch, really, or bourbon, because everybody wants it. It's the thing. So the longer it is, that's how you get in. I guess you just take it like he did.
That's the other interesting thing that I find so interesting about Scotch and bourbon in particular. The whiskeys like that is how much scarcity can play into it, how much the price can change because of the scarcity, the length of time that they've aged it, what they've aged it in. The pricing can be dramatically different, which is really interesting.
Yeah, you probably saw that information about the most ever bought or sold for one bottle of what, Macallan 1926.
Oh, well, yeah.
All right, Macallan 1926 sold for $2.7 million.
Yeah, that's
one
crazy.
bottle. That's almost $100,000 a shot.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
think about
crazy.
that.
Yeah,
that's super crazy. I mean, that's how crazy people get about their Scotch, their bourbon, their whiskey.
And this is where it comes down to personal preferences. Macallan's never been one of my favorites. And I've had some decently aged ones. I obviously haven't had anything ridiculous. But it's the style. It just wasn't quite it's a spectrum of that really weird and peaty all the way to ultra clean and no peat and what I find just a little bit lacking in personality, I suppose. There's sometimes some subtleties that are really nice, and sometimes I think they're actually don't carry a lot of really interesting flavors with it. And but that's the kind of cool thing is everyone has finds those things that they really like and what they connect with and what they don't, right?
Yeah. So have you ever heard of the Whiskey Bible by Jim Murray?
I don't think so, no.
All right, so he publishes this thing like every year, and it's a ranking of the top whiskey in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when you told me this topic, I'm like going, well, what do I know about whiskey? And I've got a book there called the Whiskey Field Guide, right? So,
nice.
and occasionally I run across this thing called the Whiskey Bible. And matter of fact, I'll show you.
Yeah, bring that over.
Yeah, kind of interesting. So this is called the Whiskey Field Guide.
Nice.
And it just kind of, all the way through is perfect, just not just recipes, but it talks about, what they are and how it got to be and what the history of the actual brand is and those type of things. This is a really cool, lots of great stuff in there.
Yep.
The authoritative figure is this Whiskey Bible. And he had a moment like you did with viralness and controversy and things like that because he rated a Japanese whiskey number 1. Think about that.
Mm-hmm.
Not Canadian, not Scottish, not Irish, not Kentucky. He rated a Japanese whiskey number 1, and people lost their minds. And especially, folks that are all in on, no, it's not whiskey unless it's from Scotland, right? It's one of those things. So,
Mhm.
I mean, what's your take? I mean, is Japanese whiskey really whiskey?
Oh, yeah, absolutely it is. I haven't had that much of it. I know it's very, very good whiskey. I'm I guess my experience is that it's it doesn't have, again, like some of the things that I really like, where there's some different personality and funkiness and differences that make it really interesting. But they make outstanding whiskey. Now, how do you rank one number one, especially with every style different? Every style is so dramatically
Yeah.
different, right?
Well, I mean, first of all, you got to be Jim Murray. I mean, it can't be me and you. You got to be this guy that knows everything about all of them.
Yeah.
But here was the controversy around Japanese whiskey, right? Was they got caught, this Japanese whiskey maker got caught blending Scotch and Canadian whiskey
Mm.
and
I have
calling it
heard-
Japanese whiskey.
Yeah, I have heard that
So-
sometimes they blend it. Yeah.
Yeah, so they blended those two and called it Japanese whiskey, and there was a big controversy about, is that even whiskey? How can you call it your own? It's definitely not Japanese because it was just two of those mixed together.
But then what do you say? Because the end result was arguably the mix they made was better than the two that were standing alone. So it's interesting. Like it makes it really interesting, right?
I don't know. I don't think I saw that that was connected, that it was the number one versus, was the mix.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
I think in Japanese whiskey, the thing about why people don't like Japanese whiskey was that controversy.
Yeah.
Was, hey, are you even really making whiskey if you have to blend it? So I can't tell you that the mix, but there's a shadow of like doubt. You're like, I don't know if I can trust you anymore, right? Because you got caught doing that.
Okay, yeah, true. But how many bourbon distilleries don't make their own bourbon, and they actually buy and mix, or buy and brand?
Yeah, I mean,
So-
I did that at Bottoms Up Brew House. I bought and at the time, Killian's Red beer, not bourbon, but beer,
Mhm.
allowed you to white label it. I called it Bottoms Up Red, and it was Killian's Irish Red, that I bought. But they allowed you to
do
rename it to whatever you wanted to.
Yeah, I think that happens in a lot of different industries, a lot of places. I suspect strongly that you're not going to get the real elites when it's just kind of rebranded and not disclosed. But I do know that in Scotch there are releases that are they're essentially barrel picks, right? And some of them maybe even blended barrel picks, but it's someone that goes and finds a very specific barrel and they'll bottle it, they'll sell it under another label, but they'll be very clear that it's a barrel pick of this specific Scotch, and they'll be really upfront about it. But it's excuse me, but it's a way that they can make a really elite whiskey, right? So it's a lot of different options in that industry, but it still comes down to, boy, it would be hard to break in. And so it's interesting to see more of these small distilleries, both bourbon and Scotch and everything else, kind of popping up everywhere. And some of them have some absolutely outstanding products.
Yeah, speaking of hard to break in, I mean, let me tell you about Cashflow Mike and what I do over at Clear Path to Cash. All right, so basically what I'm saying is hard to break in is that everyone out there that I work with in the cooperative, industry that we have, they have a marketing program. They've got a process, and they're all limited. I mean, yeah, maybe they're going to bring you leads, but they don't tell you what to do after you get the lead. Or maybe they have a process, but they don't want to tell you what to do if there's a different problem than what's in their process. That's not what we do at Cashflow Mike. Basically, what I've done is built Clear Path to Cash, and I'm able to not only identify a burning issue, but show you exactly what to do next, give you the confidence to make the right decision at the right time for the right client every single time. You don't have to think. You just have to click. If you can click a button, you can figure it out, right? My job is to help you find cash in your clients' businesses. And that's what we do the best in the country right now. So go check it out at cashflowmike.com.
Yeah, absolutely. Businesses need every bit of help they can get. So
I didn't know if you were going to get there or not. I didn't know if you were going to get there. So I went ahead and took it.
Was not paying attention to the time. As you know, I'm awful at segues.
That's pretty bad when I got to do my own segue on my own transition.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
You do that every time and you're quite good at it. So it's probably still better than what I would pull off. What I find really interesting in the especially in whiskey, but I think it's probably in other liqueurs or other drinks, where they have the blind testing, like when they have these competitions, it's all blind, right? Now maybe not with your writer who just wrote about it, but a lot of competitions are all blind. And that's what I find really interesting, because then arguably with an entire panel and it's a blind taste test, there should be, some level of accuracy there, right? And I may have mentioned them on a show months ago, but there's a distillery that's opened up in Alberta called Anoka. And we just kind of came across it last summer. Beautiful location, beautiful place. But the reason we found them is because they had won an international whiskey award for young whiskey. And so they haven't been around long enough to have a really age statement type whiskey. But they came up with a really good young one and won an international award, and it sort of put them on the map. And of course we went out there and for a young whiskey, it was really quite good. And just, as soon as I tasted it, I'm like, I want to see this one as 8, 10, 12, 15 years old. Right. And then they had some other liqueurs that they made. And this is where I was sort of leading with this. They have, some, gins, and, did not taste like your typical, I drank a pine tree gin. These were delicious and different and just, so subtle, but just bang on. Just the quality was amazing. And then they had a cream liqueur, that was, I don't even want to say it was like Bailey's, because it wasn't. It was so much further. It wasn't as thick and as cream, but it was the flavors were much better. It was so much more refined. And so it was interesting because they did all of these things really well. The glass that they had, the bottles they had came from Italy. They were gorgeous. They're beautiful. But they were using gin and some of the cream liqueurs and that to help float the business until their main love, this whiskey, was aged enough and was done. And they can't call it Scotch at all. They can call it a whiskey. But what was interesting is they basically built this distillery like an old town Scotch distillery, like an old time one, following those guidelines, no stone unturned, to be able to build that good of a whiskey. So I'm excited to see how it goes over the next number of years for them, because it was, again, quality. They're going so hard on quality, and that's how they'll distinguish themselves.
Yeah, but how cool was that they found a way to keep the business afloat during that time, right? Because that's really what you have to do, is
Really
like, how do I make money while I'm waiting for this to be ready?
Yeah.
What's funny about bourbon to me is it can only come from Kentucky. Is that right? It's only bourbon if it's Kentucky?
We may have to look that up, because I thought it maybe I thought maybe Tennessee as well.
Maybe Tennessee.
But you would have to look that up.
Probably Tennessee.
Yeah, but Kentucky, I thought Kentucky had bourbon too. So maybe there's more of a region there. Yeah, it is kind of interesting, because you could have potentially a lot of competition, but you could have a leg up by starting a distillery in a region where you can name it bourbon. You're going to have a bit of a leg up, but then suddenly you're judged against everybody else, and that can make it potentially even more challenging. So,
but isn't Jack Daniel's like Tennessee whiskey, not Tennessee bourbon?
You're right. Jack Daniel's is not bourbon. It's a whiskey. So, I'm not sure, and I think it's just the name.
I just asked Chelsea. I asked Chelsea, is bourbon only from Kentucky?
I'm
Short
curious.
answer, no. No, Mike, you're dumb. You don't know shit. You don't know
Okay.
anything about it. So bourbon does not have to be from Kentucky, but most of it is. So it definitely claims a crown.
Okay, I wonder
It
that
has
because there are some guidelines,
it
right?
is the United States. All right, so bourbon has to be from the United States, made of 51% corn. So
Okay.
that's the thing, right? So corn. It has to be aged in new charred oak barrels. No more than 160 proof. Yeah, nothing added except water. So it's no coloring, no flavoring, no blending. Yeah,
Interesting.
there you go. Yeah,
I'm pretty
so
sure I have a
it's
170 proof bourbon in the other room, and I think it says bourbon on there. I'll have to go grab it because now I'm curious. It's breaking the law, or maybe they know more than Chelsea.
Yeah.
Interesting.
95% of bourbon comes from Kentucky.
Okay.
Yeah, that's probably why I thought about that.
I think the like we see that in craft beer. One of the ways that probably the way that craft beer breweries have kind of got off the ground and were able to sustain themselves until they had enough distribution and canning and everything were the brew pubs. Make beer, come in the door, we'll serve you beer and a burger or whatever it was, right? Usually they'll have maybe a food truck out front or they'll have some food there. And I kind of think that's what's happened with a lot of the distilleries. It seems like they've become more of a tourist destination. There's probably tours and other ways to buy things and fund the distillery, right?
Yeah, and I think as you grow bigger in the business, you start devaluing that. They're like, I see those shops getting smaller and smaller. Maybe it's a window, maybe it's a little one room, something like that. But you start not needing it as much. You don't even care if you have food. You're like, oh, it's a tasting room. Maybe I'll give you some cheese.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah. So I think the bigger you get, the more successful you are. You don't need that revenue stream. So you start cutting back there because of space and focus.
Yeah. And what I find, like I've been to a lot of breweries, right? Like a lot.
Hey, don't be telling my business on the air. Don't be talking about me like that.
Okay, maybe you've only been to a couple. I've been to a lot. But when I walk up to a brewery, my spidey sense will start tingling, and this is not 100% at all. But I find if it's a really big place with a massive food menu and it's more of a restaurant or bar, I likely am already questioning the beer because their priority doesn't seem to be the beer. But if I go to a brewery and there's no food or there's no place to sit down, you can just kind of get the cans at the store. You're kind of like, okay, I kind of want to test drive it. I want to see what you're about. And so it's this little in between where I can go to a brewery. And like I said, maybe they got a food truck out front, or they have like one of my favorites, Polyrhythm in Edmonton. They got the best hot dogs on the planet because they make the wieners from scratch. They smoke them, everything from scratch. That's kind of all they do, right? And it's about quality, not quantity. And they tend to be small-ish places, right? And so I find as some of them get bigger, I question, okay, is it about the beer or is it just about turnover? So there seems to be a little sweet spot in there that is like, okay, yeah, these guys look like they care about the beer, but they're trying to fund their beer making, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, first of all, you said they make their hot dogs from scratch. That's really interesting. How do they do that?
Oh,
how do you make a hot dog? I don't even know how to make a hot dog. I know how to prepare a hot dog for eating, but now how do you make a hot dog?
These guys literally they grind, like they grind their own meat. They make their wieners, they smoke their wieners, and then they sous vide them to get them to the perfect temperature. And then they have buns from a local bakery, and then they have all these interesting toppings. I think they actually make their own mustard and everything from scratch too. I hadn't eaten a hot dog in like probably 15 years. And I think my wife and I, we each had probably like 10 hot dogs last summer because we just like every week we're over there. Oh, let's go grab a hot dog at Polyrhythm. If you're in Edmonton, go to Polyrhythm and have a hot dog. You won't regret it.
Hey, first of all, I've never had anybody in a conversation say wiener so many times. That was the most wieners I've ever heard in a conversation. So kudos to you. I mean, you're a dirty talker. I mean, you're just a dirty man.
Well, I'm talking about the food. You're the one that translated it. So who is the dirty mind here?
That's funny. Just kidding you. Hey, speaking of something dumb, go ahead. What you got?
Okay.
Before I go to something dumb.
I'm just, one more thing. So, okay. I saw, I was on an Edmonton sports broadcast the other day. They mentioned this Polyrhythm hot dogs. And so, or maybe it was even, I can't remember what it was yesterday or today. And so I went on to Yelp and looked up gourmet hot dogs near me because I want to see if there's a place at Scottsdale that has like some gourmet hot dogs, because now I have this weird craving for a hot dog, but I want a good one.
I love hot dogs.
Yeah, I want a good one. Oh man, you would not be able to stop yourself from going to this place once a week. They were, oh my God, their hot dogs were as good as much as I love hot dogs. These things were just like another level. So now I'm actually trying to find a gourmet hot dog in probably hopefully Scottsdale, but even at this point I'll look at Metro Phoenix to see if I can find one that's really stands out.
Everywhere we go, I like New York style, I like Chicago style, I like, I love a good hot dog when I find it.
Oh, they're amazing.
In Memphis, I had so much stuff on it. It was like a 10-pound hot dog with all the stuff on it. There was even a fried egg on it.
Nice.
Yeah,
nice.
yeah. You can't eat it though. I mean, you can, but it's a lot. Like, it hits like a bomb in the stomach. Yeah.
Heather and I share it and then have some leftovers for 3 days after, probably.
All right. So, did you know about the Whiskey War?
No, I don't even know what you're talking about. Actually.
Hey, and it just ended, and I think in I don't know. I gotta look up the date, but I think it was 2022.
Okay.
Yeah, it's crazy. So the war was between Canada, which is why I thought you would know about it. All right. Where is that? There it is. In 2022, that's when it ended finally. So Canada and Denmark were at war, and they called it the Whiskey War, and it was over a piece of land.
Okay. Now I do know. I didn't recognize the name, but I do know as soon as
they called it the Whiskey War.
I read about it somewhere. This was not common knowledge in Canada, but I do remember as soon as you mentioned Denmark, I do remember hearing about it. So, but go ahead and tell the.
Yeah. So apparently there's an island, right, out there somewhere, I guess, between Canada and Denmark, and called Hans or Hans. I would say Hans, right?
Remember,
Hans?
Yeah.
Hans Island, which is really not an island. No, I don't think anybody lives there. I think it's a rock. It's just a rock sitting there. But both of them were trying to claim it as part of their territory. It's Canadian, it's Denmark, and they would go and take it over, but they weren't taking it over with people. They were taking it over with bottles of whiskey, right? They would plant their flag and put a bottle of whiskey there, and then the other person would come and take the whiskey, and it was like trading whiskey back and forth between countries for years and years and years. And finally, it ended peacefully. I don't even know who owns it now or who claims it. It was just, I don't know. It doesn't say. Maybe it just ended peacefully. Like they got tired of it.
They probably both went, how much money are we spending a year to give each other whiskey?
That's basically what was happening. Is they would just go and they would leave whiskey for the other person, and they'd come, and it was called the Whiskey War. It's the funnest piece of dumb knowledge that you can have. Is there was a whiskey war between two countries, and it was all over who was going to own this rock.
That sounds strangely Canadian, to be honest. So it doesn't surprise me.
Like they would leave the bottle and they would write a note that says, sorry, we took yours. Here's another.
Well, and speaking of Canadian whiskey, I was over at Trevor's last night, which is a local liquor store in Scottsdale, and has a really quite a solid, an amazing bourbon, whatever you call it. There's a lot of bourbon there. But they also have a really nice selection of Scotch there. So that's why I was going there. And I did see 2 Alberta whiskeys on the shelf, and I know that there's been some award winners out of Alberta recently, and they've done some international awards. So it was kind of nice to see. Here's a local whiskey sitting there on the shelf there, and they're hard to get hold of. In fact, I probably couldn't even get hold of it in Canada. Maybe I should actually buy a bottle here and try it out.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen any, right? I mean, I remember, growing up, my mom would drink what, CC? Isn't that Canadian Club?
That's not good. Yeah. You don't want to try that.
Well, that's all you sent us. That's all we could get in the country was CC.
You didn't get the good stuff out. There's probably that in Crown. That's probably about it. Yeah.
Is Crown Canadian?
Well, yeah. Crown Royal's Canadian. Yeah.
Oh shit! I didn't know that. Yeah. It makes sense though, right? Because of the Crown.
Yeah, the Crown. I should get rid of that.
I've got their I've got their 18-year reserve up there. So their 18-year reserve, and that's probably the best one they've got. Is their 18-year reserve?
That would be.
I didn't realize it was Canadian. Why didn't I know that? Does it say that on there? Did I just miss it?
Probably says it on there somewhere, I guess. You take a look.
I don't know.
Sounds like a Canadian. Not to bother telling it's from Canada, but Oh, did you write on the bottle? No, I forgot.
They'll order another one. Don't worry.
Yeah, they'll drink it. Don't worry about it.
All right. So, what's your go-to? Right? If you go there and says, "I'm going to get whiskey, and this is what I want," what's your go-to?
It is, and I'm gonna do this again because this summer turned into Kilcairn, and this is the 8. The 12 is terrific. The other day I saw they had a bottle of 16 over there. I think I'm gonna go buy it actually because I can't even find that in Canada. And I do like Springbank's tricky to get, especially in Canada. I like it, but the one that you can get is not that expensive and it's delicious. Almost anything from Arden American, they're regular, just AD. It's not like a fancy barrel aged one. Is a really, really nice Scotch, and it's not expensive. And that's what's interesting about Scotch, especially in Canada. Some of these ones are impossible to get. They get on the aftermarket. I know this happens to bourbon too. And on the aftermarket, they might sell for hundreds and hundreds of dollars. And the distillery is still only getting selling them for $70 or it's sold at retail for $70 or $80 or something. And they're getting their small cut. And then this stuff's getting sold down the pipe for hundreds of dollars. And it's kind of amazing that it's the middleman that's actually making the money off of all that.
Well, yeah. Well, I'm sure it gets older. I'm sure Macallan got $0 out of that $2.7 million deal.
0. Yeah.
Yeah. And we froze. Or you froze. Or I froze.
Did I?
I don't know. One of us froze. One of us did. But hey, so mine is Bullet Rye, and I don't like many ryes. That one, it's like the Bullet Bourbon is a little sweet. And I don't think I like it sweet. I think I like a little bit of bite, and I'm probably right between Scotch and bourbon, and that's where I think that rye fits.
Well, next time you're at Scottsdale, I will crack a couple different Scotches for you and see if I can at least convince you that there's some really nice Scotches that aren't awful peaty, whatever.
Yeah. I was there yesterday. You didn't bring anything up to the airport.
I would have. I didn't know.
I was there for 2 hours. Am I going, you know who would have been fun to hang out at the airport for 2 hours? Blaine.
She drove down, had a beer with you. I didn't know. I'm just hearing it now.
I actually thought about calling you and say, hey, dude, come up to the airport. I'm there for 2 hours. Why not?
If I don't have to look at my schedule. I had some meetings yesterday, but if I had time, if I had a window, I would have come. That would have been fun. I'm trying to remember now. I actually sent a note to a friend of mine about this because one of my neighbors actually had a rye, and I am not a rye guy. I've just, for whatever reason, it's never clicked with me. Bourbon, I can actually do. Rye, I cannot. But then he had this, it's called Whistle Pig. And I actually kind of thought, this is kind of nice, actually. I don't know if you've heard of the Whistle Pig.
Dude, I got Whistle Pig up there on my shelf, and I had a Whistle Pig Manhattan yesterday.
Oh, okay. I actually I didn't mind that one. And
I actually like Whistle Pig.
The bourbon. Now I've got a couple of bourbons. I did say I had a one. Oh no, it's a 140 proof. Not what was I talking about? 170. No, 140 proof bourbon, which I don't have very often because it's so high octane. But it's a great story. It's horse soldiers from that distillery. Just a very interesting story. But I will tell you a little bit about my favorite. Okay, I shouldn't even say it's my favorite. It's a bourbon I liked. I have not had enough bourbons to even have a favorite. Scotch, I've had too many scotches to have a favorite. It's the opposite. But a few years ago, I got a barrel pick of a Heaven's Door bourbon, and I tried it at the. It was over at Trevor's actually. It was a barrel pick from their whiskey guy, and I really quite liked it. And then we had friends coming into town a couple of times, and it disappeared. It was gone. And I still would like to get, but you can't get that barrel pick ever again. A friend of mine did pick up a bottle of Heaven's Door, and it was good. It wasn't quite as good as that barrel pick. It was noticeable. But it was I really liked it. I thought it was a terrific bourbon. And it was actually a couple of years later when I realized it was owned by Bob Dylan, and that's why it's called Heaven's Door. Like, no idea.
And did you knock on it?
Yeah, they're knocking on.
That's Led Zeppelin, though, isn't it? Or is that?
No, that's Bob Dylan.
Staircase. That's Staircase to Heaven. Sorry.
Yeah. Stairway to Heaven.
Stairway to Heaven.
Yeah. No, Bob Dylan was the original Knocking on Heaven's Door, and then, of course, Guns N' Roses took it over. But it was really quite good. But okay, here's what I respected later. This was because usually a celebrity-owned liquor brand is likely more driven by brand than product, right? This I thought was a really terrific product, but the reason I didn't know it was owned by Bob Dylan is because he didn't splash his name over it. It was actually quite subtle. It's called Heaven's Door, but I didn't see any reference to Bob Dylan on this bottle, and I respect him for that. And because he was focusing, I think, on the quality of the product, not on his brand, like on his name. And for you bourbon guys out there, you probably all turn your nose up at it or me. I thought it was quite good. But I will admit I'm much more of a Scotch guy.
Well, we talked about all these barrels, right? And the barrels are sitting in. You've heard of the Angel's Cut, though?
No.
All right. So in a barrel, whiskey evaporates at about 5% per year. So the longer it sits in this barrel, the more is gone. It evaporates, and they call the evaporation the Angel's Cut, that they just come and take it.
Oh,
and,
okay.
after I mean, they just come and take it from you. So it's the Angel's Cut because, again, that's probably why a lot of bourbons can't sit as long as maybe a Scotch can because it evaporates to almost nothing. I think in 10 years, it's almost like 40% of the barrel is gone through evaporation.
Curious, because I'd have to read about that because I know that Scotch, most Scotches are aged in bourbon barrels, but I think it's aged for a relatively short period of the entire aging process. And sometimes it's moved from barrel to barrel. So they might be like, or I don't know, I think it's going to move by barrel to barrel, but they might do, well, maybe they do, because sometimes you'll hear, hey, it's X amount of time or distillate or whatever in this barrel and another percentage in another barrel. I'm going to have to read about that because I don't know if they take it and I'm thinking they blend it. They must blend. It's all a single source, single malt, but they blend it based on what it was aged in, I suspect. But that's what gets some really, really interesting flavors out of it.
There's a Devil's Cut too, and I can't remember what the Devil's Cut was. Which part of it? Devil's Cut. Let me just ask Chelsea.
Maybe that's when you have too big of a taste test and end up lying underneath the barrel.
No, I don't know if it's the first or the last. It's one of those, I think. I'm waiting for Chelsea to tell me, and I'm going to be totally wrong. The Angel's the evaporation, 2 to 5% a year. And I'm waiting for them to tell me what the Devil's Cut is.
And we'll see if she's actually right. I don't necessarily.
Devil's Cut is, it's the whiskey that's absorbed into the wood and trapped and not easily recovered.
Oh,
you lose it unless it's extracted. So there's a portion that evaporates. There's a portion that gets soaked into the wood, and they call that the devil's cut because you can never get it.
gotcha. And you know what? That's when those barrels come over to Scotland, and they start. It brings some of that flavor back to the Scotch. That's some of that bourbon flavor, or whatever they age it in. Bourbon is, I think, by far the most common or most popular one with Scotch. But we also see that in beer all the time. Bourbon barrel aged stouts, very, very common. And some of those are terrific, but that's when it bleeds off a lot of the alcohol, and that's why you get 10, 12, 17. I've had a 17 a few years ago. Percenters, that's not normal. 10, 12 is more normal for a bourbon barrel aged stout. But that's where it gets really thick and delicious, but pretty heavy stuff too.
All right. So last question, neat or on the rocks? Because, there's some purist out there that says, hey, you are screwing up the whiskey if you put ice in it.
Yeah, I'm not a purist because there's some reason to be a purist. I drink it neat because I think there's nothing between me and the flavor, and you can really get, I really enjoy the flavor. Now I have every once in a while now, putting just a couple drops of water in, because it actually can open it up. Usually, to be honest, I kind of forget, but it does. It's interesting what happens to a whiskey with just a couple drops of water, not on the rocks or anything else, just a couple drops. It'll actually change it. With bourbon, because when I first started having a little bit of bourbon, I had an old fashioned, and I thought they were so good. So I got the icings that they make, the ball of ice, and I got all the stuff to make these. And it was a lot of work, and they were quite sweet. And it just sort of naturally went back to being neat. And so now I have frozen ice balls in the freezer that have probably been there for years because I drank it neat all the time. So
yeah.
Anyway.
Well, I mean, you saw me, we did ours neat. But I actually like a whiskey rock, the big rock, because it's different. It doesn't melt as fast.
Yeah.
So you still retain the flavor. You still kind of, but you get the coolness of it, and you get a little bit of dilution, right? You get a little bit where it makes it a little bit more tolerable, not as strong, not as, hard to swallow. But yeah, I mean, so I go back and forth. Sometimes I like a whiskey rock.
So if you're drinking it neat, do you use different glassware for it?
Well, I use this, right?
Okay.
That's just a rocks glass, just a standard rocks glass. Same glass that I would use if it had a rock in it. Me personally, I do it because, after running, 3 bars for, almost 10 years, that's the way I served it.
Yeah.
That's the way I drank it. Yeah.
See, because I always use a Glencairn glass, which is a very small tulip.
Well, okay. Well, you get the fancy one. Yeah. So I've got those. I thought those were more for Scotch. I didn't know those were bourbon. I thought those were more Scotch glasses.
They may be, but I drank my bourbon out of them as well. If the odd time, if I did want to put a little bit of ice in, I would still have a bit of a tulipy glass, but it's the wider one. But 99% of the time, it's that little Glencairn tulip glass.
Yeah, but I mean, you also do Merino jeans or denim or T-shirts or whatever too. Japanese T-shirts.
Merino from Canada, actually. Unbound in Canada. Got Japanese denim on right now. Japanese selfish denim.
I mean, you're just fancy. I mean, you're fancy. I mean, when you're you can be fancy. When you're me, you have to do it out of just regular glass you get at Bath and Body Works.
Until you try it, right? Like if because those little subtleties are nice. Like I appreciate the subtleties. I appreciate the subtleties of quality when it delivers something, not a logo. I want quality garment, right? So.
All right. So this is either the last or next to last session of the year. We haven't decided yet. Probably one more next year or next week. One more. Last one. Season 5 comes to an end. We have been testing our new pivot. We've been testing our pivot. Not just business. We're talking about just stuff that you and I would talk about on the back of, on the back deck. We're going to talk about random topics. but we want your feedback. We want you to comment to say, hey, yeah, Mike, I like this direction. I like where you're going because we've tried something new every season. I want to know what you guys think.
Yeah. And truthfully, it doesn't feel much different to me. But I do like that there's these topics that, like I said, we could sit on the back porch and have a beer and we would chat about it for an hour. And whiskey just felt like a very natural one to tackle. And there's so many interesting things that happens in that industry. It's a topic that is so rich. We could come back to it 100 times and we could talk about it because it's really interesting stuff. So, maybe this year we'll start doing once a month. We'll do a tasting, and then we'll do like the guys that you see on YouTube where they wax poetic about the nose and the different flavors, and I'm getting a hint of this and a hint of that, and I don't get it when I drink it, but we could try and bullshit and see if people actually buy what we're saying.
Like, oh, this is like a cigarette ashtray.
Yes, a little bit of ashtray.
Some don't.
A little bit of sneaker. I get a kick out of those guys.
This went sideways. Yeah, this went sideways real fast. So, hey, 219 in the books. We're going to have 220 in before the end of the year.
We will. Yep.
January 1st, new season, new direction. If you hate it, you got to tell us now or we're going. We're going with it. If you say nothing, we're going to assume that you want this. You want more of this. Mike, give me more stuff that I don't know about. We're just going to talk about it because we don't know about it either.
Because we don't know about it either, but it's fun to talk about. So it's pretty much like most of the stuff online these days. So we'll just blend right in. We'll fit right in.
There you go. Hey, I'm Mike Mountain and this Blaine Birch. We'll see you next week.
Check out their website at mikeandblaine.com. Then subscribe to the podcast and buy these guys a beer.